Hello everyone, this is Benjamin Ramirez. I'm going to go over the next part of this, part 10. I'm not sure if I'm going to add a couple more to it. I think I am because they all look very, very similar. So for the first series, I'm going to be doing, obviously you've been watching, so you know it's e4, c5, b4, c takes b4, knight to f3, knight to c6, d4. Obviously this is the first 30 parts is involving knight to c3. And right now I'm covering d6 a little bit. I did part 8 and 9 recently. But the rest are actually extremely similar. So I'm not 100% sure if I should go over all of them together or not, because they're very extremely similar. And what I mean is, they have a couple of moves: knight to f6, queen to a5, a6 is possible, h6 is possible, and bishop to d7 is possible. Now, if they play knight to d6. Oh yeah, I play a3 after this. I'm sorry, that's why I wasn't working. Knight to f6. I like d5 here. Is what I like. The reason being that I like d5 here is because the knight obviously has to move. The only good square in this position, I believe, is knight to e5 for the knight. I believe that is the only good position for him. Here you can do different things depending on what you like. Calling a check isn't too bad, but it's not normally recommended with a bishop. I mean, you can capture here if you wanted. I mean, if he captures, you can capture back, so it's not bad, you know. For the opening, okay, after here, you can capture if you wanted. You can do knight to b2, which would be my preference. I will probably be moving, my bishop over very soon to attack. As white, you can do that. There's nothing wrong with it. You can develop bishop to. You can develop your bishop if you wanted, and if he takes, and let's say he decides that he wants to capture, some people would, just because they prefer you don't have your bishop here anymore. Some people would do that. So here you can either capture for pawn or queen. Neither are not necessarily bad. Personally, me, I would capture with the pawn, only because in this line that I use, I usually have a lot of space on the left side with my pieces. So having a stronger center, I find more beneficial. And if I did capture with the queen, I'd have to later decide how I'm going to defend my pawn and then move my queen later on, which might prove difficult depending on black's moves. And so it just depends. So me personally, I think knight in this position here, knight to e3 is the only good move black has. Now, let's say black decides to do something else. Let's say he decides just to simply go back instead. If he goes back, I would simply capture the pawn. If you have a chance to get your pawn back without any really major consequences, I normally do that. Here you have two different pawn structures. You have the 3 pawns here and 3 pawns there. You lost your center pawn, but you have 2 different pawn chains that are pretty decent. So it's normally not ideal to do that. Normally you're basically trading off his b pawn for your center pawn, which is normally not ideal. If you don't do it, and you don't like that, you can always play something different. Like, you can simply just protect your pawn. And after you protect your pawn, if he captures here, if he does capture, you can castle, you can take with your bishop. I prefer capturing with the bishop just for the line. D6 prevents the issue of trying to prevent from castling, like that's what I normally go for, but you can capture with the bishop if you wanted. That's what I normally do. However, it's not the only move. I just, where's it at? Yeah, it's not. You can also capture with your knight. Obviously, another video I explained how the knight can inch up to try to go to the c7 square, so it's pretty okay. And even though you don't have two different pawn trains, you have one long one, so it's not like you lost anything. Me personally, I prefer the two, but that's my personal preference. So either or is fine if you use this line. So that's for knight to f3 and knight to f6. There's not really, if someone does play knight to f6, there's not really much that can really go wrong for either side, unless they play something horrible. But knight to e5 I think is better. Knight to b8, they simply just undevelop, and you can try to take advantage of that. Like I said, if you capture, he captures, and then after that you get to continue to develop, make him move his knight again, or let's say he goes back to f6, and after he moves back to f6, you can just simply continue to develop your pieces. So you will be way ahead in development, which is why I think knight going back is bad. That's why I said knight to e5 I think is best for black. There's not really much of a choice of anything else, because if he does anything else besides move here or here, he pretty much loses a piece. I mean, if he goes here, obviously you just take the knight. A5, let me look at this real quick. I believe if he does that and a takes before, what was I looking at again? I know he can't move back because he'll lose it. He can't move here because obviously you take out the pawn, and he can't do that. He'll lose that as well. I think no matter what he does, he loses his piece, and that's why it's bad. Because if he moves to a5, you just simply capture, and he'll lose it. So that's why it was bad. I had to look at it for a second because I didn't remember why it was bad. I just knew that it was. So bear with me. I haven't been playing this opening for years and remember every detail of it. I normally get the general idea, and I do know when bad moves happen. I just have to re-look at it again. So that's it for the knight to f6 part. He doesn't have to play knight to f6. There's different moves. There's queen a5, there's a6, h6, even bishop to d7. If he played queen to a5, this is also, I like these because they're usually very similar to other openings. If you looked at something different besides d6, you see queen to a5 is played in other as well. So getting a general feel and learning them all is actually pretty decent. Here I still play d5. You can play different moves if you wanted to. Knight to b2, your b knight to d2, I'm sorry. Bishop to b2, bishop to e2. There's different things that you can do. I like to keep white at a certain pattern because everything is extremely familiar, and I kind of learn the ins and outs of it. I like to specialize specific moves, and that's why for the most part I try to find ways to keep it the same, and I think d5 keeps everything the same. The other stuff I've told you, like knight to d2 is a good move, bishop to b2 is a good move, but those are all specific moves that might not work in every situation. For these, d5 work in almost all of them, so I like to keep it simple. It makes it easier to remember, and I don't have to memorize a whole bunch of lines. So Here, I believe knight to e5 obviously I think is best for black, but in this situation, I think it's overall better for white. I mean, you can simply just capture, and he will just capture back. Now, let's say he moves here. Let's say he doesn't move that. Let's say he decides to where is this at? Okay. Let's say he decides just to move the pawn down for some reason and call it check, because he has a check available. I mean, if you defend with your bishop right here, he's going to have to defend his queen, and then he loses his knight. So that's obviously, I think knight is the best move. He can try to continue to threaten, but that would just fail. That would simply just fail. So calling check isn't really the best thing for black here. Somebody might try to counteract you, but that's not, and obviously he still can go knight to b8, which would give you a good lead in development. Last time it was very easy to get a lead in development because he didn't really have anything. With the queen there, you have to be more tricky. Me personally, I would just simply do knight to b2. It's also very possible to play bishop to d3. These are very normal moves that can work in most situations, and in this one, I like both of them. If you decide to develop knight to here, you can also later try to get your bishop in, or you can simply move your bishop in for the hope of, at some point, the pawn exchange. Let's say he decides to go knight to f6 after that or something. He has different moves possible. You wouldn't want to immediately capture. That's not what you want to immediately do. Even though it semi-looks okay initially, but if he captures back and calls check, you pretty much, if you move your pawn up one, he obviously gets the bishop for free. If he moves a knight, obviously the bishop's for free. If he moves the bishop, which I think would be the most normal move, he can come in and call check again and take a pawn. And obviously we're not in the business of giving away pawns, so that's basically what ends up happening. You will lose a lot. So if he plays something like knight to f6 just to simply develop, you do not want to capture the pawn right away. You definitely do not want to do that. I personally would just simply move knight to b2 here. That way it prevents complications. You're protecting your pawn from the knight. You're not allowing that huge chain with the queen. So it is a lot better off. So in this position, you're pretty well off. It's just a queen to a5 is a little bit trickier than knight to f6 straight away. So in the other ones, it shows why queen to a5 is bad. After d6, queen to a5 is a little bit better than the previous videos, because it makes it a little bit trickier. I don't normally play bishop to b2. I don't normally play knight to d2. Those are good moves, even in other positions. I normally keep a pattern, but in this specific situation, it does help to know that these are there. I could have played them in other ones, but I haven't, because I personally prefer the position with the open space with white. Here, you're kind of a little bit, you're developed, but everything's extremely close and it's not very much space. But you do have an advantage. You do have a little bit of an advantage, I believe. I mean, you have more pieces out. You eventually might be able to get your pawn back at some point. your king is easier to cast than your opponent's king. You already have lines for your rook on the queen side to attack if you needed to. So it's not entirely like it's not bad at all for white. Black is gonna have a harder time developing and actually getting things together. So I do like this for white, but it does, the queen a5 does can create some issues if you're playing unfamiliar, if you're not very, if you're not, expert or really good. Queen a5 can cause you problems. That's how I would deal with queen a5, just to protect myself. So that's basically what I would do. I mean, black can try to continue, but if he tries to continue, he just basically loses his attack that he has going on, and he would have to retreat. That's what he pretty much would have to do, and that would be bad for him. So if he wanted to keep the pressure up, he would not want to capture. I mean, he can also go here too if he worried about developing, but that would, you can just continue on. You can just simply continue if you wanted to. But I wouldn't capture right away if that was a situation, because I'd want to develop all my stuff, everything. And just so you know, something like this would be a complete blunder for black. It would be a complete blunder. To explain why that will be a complete blunder, you can just simply go over here. And obviously, if queen decided to take here, that will be checkmate. So it's really odd checkmate, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see it here. In this situation, the best bet queen to do would be capture and lose his queen. So if you're in this particular situation and he puts the queen to c8-7 or whatever and does that, I would not capture. I would simply do this, because this is tempting and it's also losing for black. So that's pretty much why. So I do like it for white. There's a lot of nice, neat tricks that normally we don't see in normal games, simply because this is not a normal position. This opening is not normal at all, and you will see little weird stuff that is not you're not used to. So if you try playing it, you can either lose horribly or your opponent will lose horribly. It's a very sharp game. If you get used to the positions, more than likely your opponent will lose horribly. So hope you like and enjoy. I guess this will be part 10 and 11 together. I said every day, but I've been kind of taking a break doing other stuff in life, and so I apologize for that. I want to get this out as quickly as possible. It's going to take me a very long time, probably a whole year, to get all of the opening variations out there, and by the time I'm done, I'll have more information on the first parts that I have now, just from playing. So this is a work in progress, and it works very well. So hope you enjoy. Like and subscribe. Share with your friends. Try it, and if there's any issues, you let me know, and I'll tell you how to correct them, or at least do my best to tell you how to correct them. Enjoy your chess, and mess up your opponent with a different kind of Sicilian opening. That's for sure. I enjoy that much.